Yes, we're back again on Friday night on the bus, and as always, you know what that means. It's time to do what we do best on a Friday night, Liam. It's time to talk about a Celtic left back. No, wait, no, not that left back, not that one, everybody. It's not going to be that guy. It is Celtic's new old left back, Kieran Tierney. At the moment, no, Celtic, they're not giving us much in the way of news right now. Everyone's away on the hollybobs, it seems. But yes, Kieran Tierney, we do know that that's definitely happening. So do you know what I thought we'd do, Liam? Let's do a Bustalgia style Kieran Tierney in focus, because we've done Bustalgia episodes focusing on specific players. Let's do it for Kieran Tierney. Let's look back at his first spell at Celtic, obviously what he's done at Arsenal, and what it's going to mean for him coming back to Celtic and whatnot, and what we can look forward to. Are we getting an improved player? Was his time at Arsenal a success? So yeah, we'll talk about all these types of things tonight. But yes, as I just said there, folks, it is Friday night. So of course, Liam is here. He is Canada's favourite Tim. He's the wise man. He's Greg Taylor's favourite Tim as well. How you doing, Liam?
I still think there's a chance he might end up here. I don't know. Good. Let's talk about Tierney tonight. I'm bummed I'm missing the Scotland game because I can't get a feed here on YouTube in Canada. So I'll just be looking at some of the highlights, and you were good enough to fill me in just before about what's going on.
Yeah, well, you won't be too bummed because Smell the Gloves got the current score. It's currently 3-1 to Iceland. So I mean,
nice. Anyway, let's talk about Tierney. So because that was the only reason I had any interest in the game. I wanted to see how Kieran Tierney was going to be what he would look like, because I'm excited again. Like, let's take all the negative out of it right now, right? Just look at it clearly positive tonight.
Yep.
I'm excited that we're getting a world-class player coming to Celtic this summer.
Yeah, well, shadow of a doubt.
You listen to the way the Arsenal supporters are behaving on Twitter and things like that. You know, there's all sorts of ones, right? But genuinely, a team that's really sad to see what they recognise as a really, really good player. And I think they're realising as well that they haven't got the best out of him yet. That they had him and they've let it, they've squandered that opportunity. And I'm hoping, because as we talk about this Friday feelings, now Bustalgia, but that Celtic's got this romantic nature to them as well.
Yeah,
I'm hoping that he's coming home to recognise that it's not always about the money. And so I think there'll be a number of reasons for that, and I'd be interested to hear what some other people think. It's like, if he's coming back, why is he coming back?
Yeah, we shall. We'll be getting into that. We spoiler. I think one of the reasons why things went the way they did at Arsenal might have something to do with his manager, but we'll get into that in a wee while. But before we do all that, before we go any further, remember, folks, what you've got to do on a Friday night, you've got to do all that good stuff. Help out your Uncle Phil and your Uncle Liam by doing that and appeasing us and making us happy. So hit the like button. Get more interactions for the channel, help us in the old algorithms, CSC. Hit the subscribe button on this channel as well. And if you haven't done it yet, naughty if you've not done this yet. But remember, folks, me and Liam and Connor and Mark and Terry and all that, we're moving. We're moving at the end of the pre-season. We are going to the Boys on the Bus channel. It is starting ahead of the new season. We'll probably start to look to upload content on the regular from probably tail end of July ahead of the new season. At the moment, we're in a sort of a moving period. We're packing up all our boxes and moving. So if you haven't found that channel yet, there is a comment in the live chat just now that's pinned at the top that has got the link. Go and hit the subscribe button, and you will continue to see the likes of myself, Liam, Terry, and whatnot going forward into the new season. And as Russell also said on the TNF on Thursday night, yes, there'll still be shows on this channel. We said it when we announced the channel as well, the new one. The Bhoycie Bus channel will still have shows. Russell will do them whenever he feels like coming on and doing them, and there will be familiar faces coming on with him as well. But majority of the team, we are going to that channel where we will be doing regular shows a week, 3, maybe 4 shows a week. So more bus content. What more could you want in your life? So remember, hit the subscribe button on that channel too. And let's have a wee look who is in tonight's chat. Let's have a wee gander. Jim C is here. Tommy55 is here. 420 somewhere is here. Patrick McLaughlin is in. Scott Howe is in. Ian McIntosh is in. Joe Hendry is here. Who else have we got? We've got Ali. We've got Smell the Glove. We've got Patman 67. I don't. Oh, no, wait. He's here. He's here. Graham Tyrrell's here. Of course he is. And as I said at the top of the show, we are talking about a left back tonight. He plays Celtic, so you know. I think the klaxon could be. I've already set the klaxon off tonight. I've even got an animated klaxon now, so we're going up in the world. We're upgrading. We've got an animated klaxon now on the bus too. So yeah, thanks for everyone joining us. Take your usual seats. All the usual familiar faces are on tonight. All the favourites, and of course, you can still share the link of the Bhoycie Bus Far and Wide, and you can also share the link of the new channel Far and Wide as well. So please do that and help us to grow that audience too. And piesports.com, bus 1888, and get 12.5% off of your order and all your tasty pastry treats. So with all that said and done, Liam, shall we talk about Kieran Tierney, phase one, Celtic career, the first time around before we get to talking about him coming back. So yes, let's give him the Bustalgia treatment. He is tonight's player in focus. So fun fact for you, Liam, before Kieran Tierney even made his debut for Celtic, he actually entered the Celtic folklore unexpectedly. So do you remember in the Tony Mowbray season when it was a disaster? I know we try and blank that season out, but obviously he got sacked and Neil Lennon took over for the last 8 league games, and you had the Scottish Cup semi-final, which we lost to Ross County. Did you ever see the interview clip outside the stadium where a bunch of angry fans, like BBC were on the BBC News were talking? They happened to talk to Kieran Tierney's dad, with Kieran Tierney, a very young Kieran Tierney by his side, and obviously his dad wasn't too happy. And he actually made the proclamation. He had a premonition. Said, "See that? That's my boy there. He's going to play for Celtic one day." And oh, he was right. Oh, how right he was, because just 5 years later, because that was April 2010 when we lost that Ross County game. It was about April 2015, 5 years. And yes, Kieran Tierney did indeed make his Celtic debut against Dundee, 22nd of April 2015. Do you remember anything about that game at all? The goals from it? Just because one thing that I remember is Virgil van Dijk pinging a free kick right in the top corner. And that's something that surprised me about Big Virgil. Ever since he's went down to England, I don't think any team, Southampton or Liverpool, have utilised the fact that he had that in his locker. Do you remember him doing that 3 or 4 times for us? That was one of the games that he's one of those free kicks.
Aye, I mean, that was like pure Holland international football you were getting there. That's what you expected. There was a lot of things about Van Dijk that surprised me. Like the way he used to run through them. There was a time where you couldn't play against him in the midfield. He was strolling through it at times as well. And it wasn't like the clear run, like they're trying to open the channel for Scales and all that. No, it's like, no, he was going right through and taking them on and dribbling and that. And joy to watch, but yeah, the amount of free kicks he took, unbelievable.
That's what a player, absolute cavalier player. But yeah, that's the era that we're in. We're smack bang in the Ronny Deila era, 2014-15 season. We're battling towards the title. At this point in time, we've already won the League Cup that season by beating Dundee United in the final. So the league were pretty clear at the top. We're sort of winding down in the run. I think we're 8 points in front. Fun fact as well, the game against Dundee that Tierney makes his debut was the week after, or the game right after, the very infamous Inverness Caledonian Thistle semi-final that arguably cost Ronny Deila a treble. The Josh Meekings handball for Inverness on the goal line. It was only a few days after that. But yeah, I'd say 22nd April 2015. Wee bit of pop culture, what was going on in the music charts and the movie charts? Well, Jess Glynn was top of the singles charts, and Paul Simon was top of the album chart. Now, there's an old school one. And Fast and the Furious 7 was top of the UK box office on that night. So we beat Dundee 2-1. Virgil van Dijk scored an absolute belter, a free kick. Gary Mackay-Stevens scored the other goal as well. So again, that gives you a snapshot of where our team was as a squad. Rangers were nowhere to be seen at this point. They were still in the second tier. And spoiler, they would remain in the second tier for another season, because at the end of this season, they happened to lose to Motherwell in a very hilarious playoff. But yeah, during the game, 81st minute, he comes on and replaces Emilio Izaguirre, who, again, at that point, we'd gone through a period, Liam, as you know, before Izagiri, where our left back seemed to be always a bit of a problem. Naylor had like one decent season, then he kind of fell off. Remember, Danny Fox came in, then he was sold after half a season. Edson Braffide, dreadful. But Emilio Izagiri came in under Lenny. He was phenomenal. But I think it's safe to say after the leg break, which was early on in his second season, it was Izagiri he still was decent. Obviously, I mean, given what had came before him, he was easily the best left back that we'd had for a while. But yeah, you did feel that with Izagiri, he was maybe being a bit more cautious after the leg break up at Aberdeen. But at that time, I don't think any Celtic fan was thinking in their head, oh, we need to replace Izagiri. So there was a replacement waiting in the wings that we didn't know about with being Tierney. But at that time, what was your feelings on Izagiri?
Izagiri, I thought was a baller. I liked him. I thought for the minute he came into the squad, he looked exactly what we needed. He was direct. I mean, remember, he scored some cracking goals as well. Izagiri, I remember a few feet outside the box that were just absolutely brilliant, So, when Tierney came on for Izagiri, I still remember that first substitute. I remember him walking up, and I remember just looking around people in the pub and all that. And so we can romanticize things. There's a wee bit of time involved now. But I remember people just like, he looks a player. He looks a player. Mm-hmm. He just looked like somebody that grew up supporting Celtic, because you could just tell by the look in the boy's face when he stood in the touchline, he was going through something every single one he has imagined when we played football or watched football or just talked to our pals about football. It's like, yeah, he was experienced. You could tell it. Like, that's one of us coming on there. Mm-hmm. And and I thought it was great that he replaced Izagiri, because that was a challenge. Mm-hmm. You know what? It wasn't that he was replacing, who, ding ding. It was replacing a player that was. There we go. He was replacing a player that was good and still very useful to Celtic, and so there was a lot for him to beat and come in and show his, just show his talent and all that, his desire to actually play for Celtic. And those first couple of games.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. It was the tail end of Ronnie's first season. With Rangers not being there, we could try out a few youngsters, because it's no coincidence. This is the same season that Callum McGregor has his big breakthrough. He established himself in the team pretty much from early, right at the start of the season. He scored in the very first competitive game we played that year against the Icelandic team, Reykjavik. We scored a Champions League qualifier. And throughout the season, McGregor kept getting games. But again, without Rangers being there, with the best challengers being pretty much Motherwell and Aberdeen, we always knew the title's in the bag. So there was a chance there to, get Kieran Tierney a game. Although as the story goes with John Collins, and I think even Ronny Deila might have said, Tierney it was just like a total fluke that he just happened to be playing. I think it was like a reserve game that they went to watch, and he didn't usually get that many games for the reserves. He had to play in that night, and they were like, they obviously saw a player in him. And obviously when he was joining in at the training and stuff like that, they were liking what they saw. But yeah, he obviously got thrown on that night against Dundee late on in the game just to get his first run out. He did play one more game that season against St Johnstone, but he actually started the game. And I can remember watching that one, because the Dundee game wasn't actually on the telly. It was one of the ones you had to watch the highlights. But the St Johnstone game, we drew 0-0 at McDermott at the tail end of the season, but the league was already won. But that game will always be remembered for a very hilarious James Forrest moment where he went round the keeper and had an empty net to put it into and somehow stuck it by the post, and he also fell on his face for extra banter as well. But hey, the league was already won at that point. But yeah, Kieran Tierney gets a couple of wee chances there, and interestingly enough, when I went and looked this up, he actually started the first league game of the next season against Ross County. But after that, he kind of fades out of the team. But the big breakthrough moment for him, you talk about taking your chance when it comes, was again involving Izagiri. We're playing in the Europa League at Ajax, the first Europa League game. We had Ajax, Fenerbahce, and Molde from Norway that season in the Europa League, after we'd once again blown it in the Champions League qualifiers against Malmo. It was that season, horrendous performance. And Izagiri, I don't know what he was on that night. He was on an absolute mad one. It was like he was pining to get sent off. I compared it to, there was a game in Brendan's third season where we played at St Mirren, where Olivia and Cham was just on an absolute mad one that night, and you knew a red card was coming. He'd already been booked. He was flying into tackles. He was just being overly aggressive. And Izaguirre was doing the same thing that night against Ajax, where it was like he's already been booked, being really reckless with a lot of the challenges, and it's like he's going to get sent off here. And lo and behold, second booking did come. He gets sent off. We do end up drawing the game 2-2 in Amsterdam. I think we led twice in that game, if I remember right. So I think Beaton and Lustig put us ahead twice, but we couldn't hold out. But that then means that, you know, we Izaguirre suspended in the European competition. Kieran Tierney's going to have to come in and play against Fenerbahce. And again, I remember this game vividly, with how he played that night. Because again, all eyes are kind of default sort of, you just concentrate this way because he's a youngster. As a fan, you just concentrate more on him because it's new, it's something different. And I remember quite early in the first half, there was a point where they were breaking down the right-hand side, and we just got a little taste of what Kieran Tierney was all about. He was fearless. The way he flew into this slide tackle, inch perfect. You know, the guy was breaking down the right-hand side, and he just runs towards him, slides in, puts it out for a throw-in, wins the ball cleanly, but it's a hard tackle. It's not a foul, but it's a really hard slide tackle, and it's like, that's what he was all about, and that did kind of set the tone for what we would see over the next few years, because he was fearless in the old slide tackle, wasn't he?
Mate, it just mirrors the identity of what I think we fans believe we are as a club, and that is it. You know, see, when you live abroad and that you play football, and people say, "Oh, the Scottish style of football," and they always see that it's very hard tackling, very direct, long ball. Not agricultural in any sense, but tactical, but deadly, you know, and you know, but a physical game. And so when you see somebody like that coming into the team that sort of mirror those old characteristics of the players we used to love and idolize, especially when I was a kid.
As we found out with Tierney, his idol was Bobo Baldi, not the typical young Celtic fan, Henrik Larsson. No. His idol was Bobo Baldi, and then you look at the way he used to slide tackle players, you can see it, can't you?
Oh, remember my son had to take his fish to school or something, and he was trying to name, who's he named? His name's Bobo. Oh, why? Who's Bobo? Why is he named Bobo? He's a big black guy that plays for Celtic. Just kind of like
big destroyer.
He's like a monster. Oh God, Bobo's going to get you.
He's going to get you. Aye.
They're the same age, so you could see how that would be his favourite player and that as well. And again, there's certain rough and tumble players. You know, these boys all grow up with wrestling and all that as well. So of course, you're going to idolise a figure like Bobo, because again, he's an outlier, you know, and that's where Kieran Tierney is. He's the same, but he's an outlier in the sense that he's one of us.
Yeah.
You know?
Yep. So in this case, Kieran's going to get you.
There were so many kids growing up idolising Kieran Tierney. I mean, that's another thing about coming back to Celtic at this level and this part of his career and that is, he's got a chance of being that name, that person that kids grow up in around our area in Scotland that want to be Kieran Tierney and idolising that. And it's a guy that came back for the right reasons and know the money. And, you know, I think he's got a chance to sort of, be himself. You know?
Yeah. Oh, definitely. But I say, in this case, it was KT's going to get you, because this set the tone for those slide tackles that he would do. He was fearless, you know, young and fearless, would just fly in there, and he would win the ball. It wasn't even like reckless stuff where, you know, he was crunching them and giving away fouls. I thought he was absolutely meticulous in how he timed some of those challenges, and it did set the tone. So it turns out he took his chance really well, although on the night, we actually went 2-0 up in that game. I remember we got off to a flyer. Chris Commons and Lee Griffiths scored, and you're like, okay, this is it. After that, I mean, a good point away in Amsterdam, let's be honest, is even though, we dropped into the Europa League, still it's a European trophy. You know, we want to try and do as well as we can. To get a point in Amsterdam, given how shite Celtic usually are away from home in Europe, was good. But we're 2-0 up against Fenerbahce at home, and we're flying. But then Effie Ambrose did some Effie Ambrose things, if I remember correctly. He had an absolutely ridiculous pass back that led to them getting a goal, and then they made it 2-2 just after half-time, and that was it. Ended up 2-2. So we've drawn the first two games. Turns out Kieran Tierney ends up playing 4 out of the 6 group games, and he would play in 22 games between then and the end of the season, starting all those 22 games as well. He was never no longer used as a sub. Izagiri still got a few starts here and there, but I think it was quite obvious that this is an exciting young player. And Ronny Deila, again, recognised that, much like with Callum McGregor the season before. Rangers aren't in the league. We're going to win the title. I know Aberdeen gave us a wee bit of a scare that season. There was a point where we looked a bit bereft. Ronnie's second season was rough at times, but ultimately you still kind of knew we'll still come through and win this. But obviously he saw that Kieran Tierney, this guy looks like a special talent. He's got something. And yeah, that was a ringing endorsement. So he played in 22 remaining league games that season, starting every single one of them. And obviously the right call, with hindsight being 2020, Liam, it was. I say, as good as Izagiri was, and there wasn't a clamour to, he needs replaced. It was just a natural progression. It was just one of these things that happens in football. You just got to capitalise. When this guy's red hot, got to capitalise on it.
Oh, that's a frustrating thing, about Rodgers and that. I don't think he capitalises on things like that. Same with a lot of dinosaurs out there. Stevie Clark, here's another one. Doesn't capitalise when things are hot. Yeah. I mean, you got to look at Ronny Deila for recognising the fact that Kieran Tierney had this talent, that he was a player, and for recognising that, and then, just having the balls to develop that during that season. I think, I don't know if he would have got that. I mean, it's so much sliding doors between Kieran Tierney even being at this level in our club, and it makes you think about the other boys that we have out there within their system that are that, again, that short step away from being what comes back to is like, he's got to be probably the marquee player in Scotland now. It comes back to that, So, it just wonders how many others are out there like that need that chance to develop. And, are we developing them properly? And I hope that becomes a catalyst that, we also be missing out on, because, I don't know, we need to find a way to see them playing.
Yeah, well, one of the things I remember about this first sort of season where he bedded himself in and established himself was obviously with Rangers being in the second tier at that point. This was Warburton had taken over, so he took over the season before they came back into the Premiership, and he was the manager for half of the next season till Rodgers chased him off. But obviously Rangers, the press were just going on about how great this free-flowing football that they're playing is and whatnot, and they had Waghorn and all that playing for them. But of course they signed one James Tavernier, and we kept hearing stories about this right back they've got, the marauds forward and gets his crosses in, and he scores set pieces, and he scores loads of goals from right back and whatnot. And we played them in the semi-final of the Scottish Cup. Now, yes, obviously the result didn't quite go the way we wanted to. It was a bit of a shit show of a performance. Many players definitely didn't get pass marks that day, but Kieran Tierney definitely did, because for all the hype and all the brouhaha that I heard going into that game when we arrived at Hampden about this James Tavernier is going to be marauding up the right-hand side, young 18-year-old Kieran Tierney made sure he didn't get a sniff, and Kieran Tierney played the full 120 minutes that day. We played all the way through extra time, and Tav, I didn't see him that day for all the hype and all this. He's going to do this and that, and what a player he is. Again, Tierney, he's like, reputations, don't care for them, pal. Don't get time for any of that. And he just shut him down. Every time he tried to come forward, I just remember Tierney just being right on him, just giving him all sorts of hassle. Again, with the slide tackles, just timing everything perfectly. And again, it's like, he's not phased at all. And again, remember, 18 years old at that point. I say, as unfortunately the way that season ended and that game as a sort of microcosm, it's a bit of a damp squib. Season didn't end how we wanted it to. We get beaten in the League Cup semi-final by Ross County. We lost that semi-final to Rangers on penalties. And we kind of limped over the line in the end to win the league title. Ronny Deila's time was pretty much up. It was writing was on the wall after the Rangers defeat. Even if Celtic had beat Rangers that day and maybe went on and won the Scottish Cup against Hibs, because there's a good chance they might have. Would it have saved Ronnie's job? I don't know. I think you could kind of tell the way the players were playing that season. A lot of them were just on their feet, or dead on their feet, like Scott Brown, for example. But, of course, then Brendan Rodgers happens. Brendan Rodgers, version 1, as we're talking about Kieran Tierney, version 1. And one of the first things that we noticed about Tierney going into Brendan's first season, much like James Forrest, it was weird how literally from one season ending under Ronnie to another, both of them came back and you could see that both of them had bulked up a bit, because obviously Tierney was only 18, as I say, 17, 18 when he broke in. And naturally, he's got the sort of skinny frame. But it was almost like, I say, literally a light switch being flicked from one end of season to another one, starting like 3 months later. Him and James Forrest were both like physical specimens when they came back for pre-season that year. And again, Tierney, and we obviously know with that team, that Brendan Rodgers Invincible Treble team, his relationship with Paddy Roberts in particular was always a highlight. The bromance that they two had going on. But right away, again, because Izaguirre was still at the club, but right away, Brendan Rodgers came in and just knew right away, this is still my guy, this is my boy. He kept playing at left back. It was Tierney just fitted in right away, because that first season of Brendan, I mean, it seems a bit, I know we still won 2 trophies this season, won 2 trophies last season. The silverware is still there, but the style of play in that very first season, one of the things was the fullbacks getting forward. Lustig on one side, they'd alternate it, and Tierney also on the other one. And it was just exciting, man. It was exciting. Tierney was a great fit for Brendan at that point in time.
I assume you had season tickets back then, right, Phil? Did you have season tickets then as well?
I did indeed. I've been since 2007.
One of the things that I noticed was how vocal he was for a young guy.
Mm-hmm.
He always seemed to be shouting. He always seemed to be encouraging players and moving them forward, positioning them, all that sort of thing. And I thought, okay, that's impressive for a young boy like that. It was at that point, you start looking at, he's not just a player, this guy's a leader, and I liked that. I liked him about that you don't have to be a certain age to show leadership, and that you're one of the guys that can be counted on, but also to keep ahead, to like get the team moving, arm around the shoulder, kick up the arse sort of stuff. And to see that at such a young age as well, that's when you're just thinking, yeah, all right, this is it was one of the players you were excited to come and see players, and it was ages since, like, with a lot of hope for McGregor. I liked Brown, but I didn't love Brown. There's parts of Brown's game I didn't like in that. So I just like seeing a really good Scottish player come through, and this guy just said all the qualities out of the Roy the Rovers version of a Scottish player playing for his boyhood team, and so he had all that going for it. So that was cool. That was exciting, and it was a fun again. That was another way to just see Celtic, in a different way,
Well, you're looking at Tierney's kind of a bit of a rare breed when you look at our track record since the early 2000s, when the Lennoxtown complex was built, and the whole idea was to improve our youth system coming through. If you've got like a Mount Rushmore of the players that have made it at Lennoxtown, there's literally 4 you could put up there. It would be Aidan McGeady, it would be Callum McGregor, it would be James Forrest, and it would be Kieran Tierney. So I say it's quite a rare instance that a player does come through and establish himself in the way he does. Yeah, there's been other ones like Stephen McManus.
Ralston.
Ralston better than any of these 4.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, but
I'm saying there has been other ones like Ralston. Yeah, there has been other ones as well. But when you're looking at the 4 best ones that really went to a next level, I'd say they 4: Tierney, McGregor, Forrest, and McGeady. Was the first one probably from the mid 2000s, because he was a special talent as well. But it's few and far between, it feels like, that we get these generational talents coming through from our youth system. But this was definitely, without a shadow of a doubt, a generational talent. And in that season, one of the games that stands out, where, because he'd already scored his first goal, was against Motherwell at the tail end of the last season. But and even though it technically went down as an own goal, he did get the shot on goal. Essentially, it was goal bound. But remember the Man City game that season in the Champions League, the 3-each draw? He scored Celtic's second one that night. I say, albeit it did have a deflection off of Raheem Sterling on the way into the net. But again, your Champions League, Pep Guardiola's Manchester City coming to town, no fear. Kieran Tierney still marauding up that left-hand side. Man City, who over the years under Pep, they're ruthless. If you are out of position, if you make a mistake, they will punish you. But again, here is Kieran Tierney, 18 years old, just like getting forward, supporting the attack. I say it's his shot that gets deflected in by Raheem Sterling that ends up putting us 2-1 up. But again, first real big, I say first out of the goals, he doesn't score many, but that was like his first big goal contribution. Essentially, was that one against Manchester City. But again, just proving again just how fearless he is, Liam, and say on a stage like that to just be going up that side against a guy like Raheem Sterling, who at that point in time was like one of the hottest commodities in English football. So just showed you again the mindset of the boy.
The whole hype around that game was unreal because I think Man City were doing an Invincible at the same time as us, and we were both playing each other. I think, as Invincibles at that point. And so, I remember, it's one of the back of the couch type games, if you think about it too much going into it. But I felt kind of confident there. I really liked Paddy Roberts. He was showing a bit of form at the time. Tierney, and it was just like, all right, we having an exceptional young team that could be able to turn them over on day one of the nights. And I think they got as close to that as they possibly could. I was well chuffed with that as a draw. I thought it was good, okay, and then the return leg.
Oh yeah, we got a point as well in the return leg, even though we were out by that point. But again, they didn't manage to beat us. And turns out Pep Guardiola has not beaten Celtic, I think, in his managerial career, which is quite a remarkable stat when you actually think about it. But yeah, see that at this point in time, he's firmly benched. It's like Emilio who, but hey, we've got a good competent backup. Imagine that, Liam. Imagine having a left back, right? That's good, and then having another one that, hey, if this guy gets injured or sent off, the guy that can come on is good as well. What a novel concept, Liam. It won't catch on, will it?
No. Well, especially when they can come on and play the exact same style. I mean, that's something as well, too. It's like, Tierney's a very distinct style. The player that we have, or who we were pining for to replace him, does not have that same style. So our whole team will have to switch to accommodate Tierney being injured, who's our best player, who you're building a team around to play to his best capabilities. And then he's out, we changed it completely rather than finding someday, well, maybe we just get Diet Tierney in there, and that will hold us on like we have with Tony Ralston. Yep. But no, you would have to change the entire team. So, and I mean, that's something to think about.
Yeah, it is. But in terms of again, we talk about Celtic and the fairy tale around and just some of the stories and the cult stories and whatnot. And again, it can only happen with a team like Celtic and a wee guy from Glasgow or Lanarkshire is Motherwell, I believe Kieran Tierney was from, right? Wisher, aye. And again, this is the only type of thing that can happen with us, I just feel. But obviously one of the most iconic moments of his time at Celtic was at the end of that season. We're obviously going for the Invincible treble. We've won the league. We've won the League Cup. We're playing Aberdeen in the Scottish Cup final. Do you remember the name of the Aberdeen player that elbowed him and put him out of the game? There's a pop quiz for you.
Oh, fuck. Wasn't it Jack? It was and I had it for a while as well because I hated the bastard because of that.
Begins with a letter J, so we said Jack, letter J.
Jagger.
Jayden Stockley. Jayden Stockley was the name of the guy. Obviously, he hits him with the elbow, and he knows what he's doing. Right in front of Derek McInnes and Brendan Rodgers. Remember, Derek McInnes was very bullish about, no, that wasn't a foul or whatever. But anyway, it happened just on the sideline. He obviously busts his teeth, busts his nose, whatever. He has to get taken, not just off the park and get subbed, which, interestingly enough, right, Tom Rogic actually came on and replaced him. Tom Rogic actually was the substitute that came on that day. And when you think about it, sliding doors moments, Tom Rogic comes on and ends up being the hero of the day. By Kieran Tierney ends up going off injured, and he has to go to the hospital. It's that bad that he's going to the hospital. And as I say, only this could happen with Celtic. And again, you could only picture it being with a wee guy like Kieran Tierney. It's the type of thing you'd hear about Bertie Auld maybe end up doing back in the day. It's like he's one of the types of Celtic characters. He's just got that about him. He comes back in time for the end of the game. For the full-time celebrations. I think he gets dropped off outside the stadium, whatever car they bring him in. He's still in his full kit. It was pissing rain that day, and there's an image or a video of him running into the stadium, up the steps at the front of Hampden, still dressed in his Celtic kit to get and join in the celebrations. He's apparently suffered a concussion. He's no 100% there, but he still makes it up the steps to lift the trophy. And yeah, the lights are on, but nobody's really home because you can see that he's just kind of just running on adrenaline at that point. But again, it's just part of the iconic, moments of Kieran Tierney, the trophy lift in the cup final. But again, just kind of summed them up, didn't it?
You want to even amplify the magic on that mare. Supposedly his dentist was in the crowd and came running down to meet him on the touchline so that he could go back and operate him right away. Yeah, it's pure Roy the Rover stuff. If you're writing an episode of Ted Lasso or something like that, you'd sort of go, that's a bit, no, you wouldn't do that. Like, footage him. Like, I think he's still got his boots on as well, and I'm thinking he's running on bricks, I'm thinking as well, and I'm like, he's going to skate
in the rain.
So, right. You know? So watching in a video as he's coming through with a carrier bag. I mean, all you're missing is the cameras and the pan and shot. That is like something out of a movie. That is like to get in, and then the Ruggermo getting in through the damn Kieran Tierney. I think the blood's still on his jersey. There's blood on him as well.
Yep. Getting
in to run across the track and join his team, getting up there. I mean, come on. You know, that's Martin Scorsese, Ridley Scott.
It's cinema. It's just cinema.
How do you know? Wrexham. How is it? Just watch the bus.
People are saying, did he not tell the ambulance driver get me back to Hampden? I probably did say it's just a.
I got it was a Tim, huh? Once we didn't get Aberdonian or something, you know.
Do you know? I just remember well. Fun fact as well about that game. It's just all coming back to it. And funny enough, the guy that is on the telly right now. Do you know that Billy Gilmore was in attendance at that game in the Celtic end with his dad, even though he was a Rangers player at that point, a Rangers youth player, because William Hill, who were the sponsors of the Cup, they did a thing where they did a panoramic 360-degree picture taken at Hampden where you could pan around and zoom in on anybody to basically find yourself and you could tag yourself and all that. Somebody on Twitter found Billy Gilmore sitting with his dad in the Celtic end, because it is actually known that Billy Gilmore is him and his dad anyway are Celtic. It's the mother in the family, as we saw when he signed for Norwich, because she wouldn't even touch the green bit of Norwich's scarf. Remember that whole palaver? She's the one that's Rangers, but him and his dad, Celtic. So Billy Gilmore was at that cup final because, again, people zoomed in and found him sitting there with his dad. And I was like, wow, there you go. But see, now look at him winning Serie A with Napoli. One that got away, maybe. You know, it's one we can ask, you know, did he get away from that one? But I just came back to it. I was thinking about that final, and I remember that panoramic picture, and it was like, Billy Gilmore was sitting down, you know, near the Celtic bench with his dad. But in terms of iconic moments, we need to talk about this as well in the Brendan Rodgers era, because one of my absolute favourite Celtic pictures was created by Kieran Tierney, and it's phenomenal. I've got two pictures that I always go to, and people say, what's your favourite Celtic image, like a picture? And I've always got two. Funny enough, both of them were at Ibrox, and one of them is the Paul McStay celebration in the centenary season where he scores the volley at Ibrox and Celtic win 2-1. There's just a great shot of him running over at the Broomloan end. And it's just the look on his face, the joy, you know, just it's what it means to be a Celtic player and to score against them at Ibrox as well. And of course, it was such a crucial goal that season. So that's like the joy of it. That's like the yin, and then you've got the yang, the opposite to it. Whereas against Rangers, but it's going from the joy to the absolute contempt that we've got for them. I'll take the banner off the screen so you can see it in full flow here, because it's phenomenal. Let's see. So yeah, so you go from the joy, that Paul McStay picture, and then you get this, the contempt. Candeas on the ground, he's rolling about, and he's like, oh, I'm so hurt. Because this is after one of Kieran Tierney's trademark slide tackles. It was a hard tackle, yes, but he wins the ball, wins it no problem. And just look at his face there. Doesn't even look at Candeas, not even acknowledging him. He's rolling about, flailing on the ground like a fish, like, oh, I'm so hurt, referee, book him. Look at the Rangers fans in the background, they're raging. Kieran Tierney, he is fresh out of fucks to give, Liam. Look at him. He's just like, that's what we need. We talked about it, Liam. How many Celtic players are in that too nice category? We need guys like him who've got that mentality where it's like, show them the contempt they deserve. And I love that picture. Love it.
Phil, we need to get somebody out there that's on the AI or the Photoshop. Get a leather jacket on that. Get the red eye on, because that's the theme for Terminator 2. You know, he's just coming back. That's how you read on it. It just looks like meaning business. Great picture. And it's somewhere there with Muhammad, like, you know, that Muhammad Ali one that Scottish photographer Harry Benson shot.
Yeah.
Ali's up and he's looking over. I think it's Sonny Liston. And you know, you want to have your best players to have iconic shots. You know, I love the fact that if you look at the culture of Celtic, that we do have those. I don't know if every club has those. I'm not aware of them, but my God, we seem to have better than most. You know, the Jota one. You know, I've never seen anybody hold the World Cup, the European Cup like Billy McNeil.
Yeah.
It's never registered as, I know ours is a much better photo, everyone about it. But that's just because you're used to it and that. And anyway, I love that picture, Phil. I can't wait to see the amount of other. You know, I think we've got a leader coming back as well. And you know what? You got a player coming back with a swagger.
Aye, he's definitely got that.
And that's one thing that's really been valued in the Celtic identity. You know, for the Jimmy Johnsons, you know, right through to James Forrest and all that, as well as like having players that come into the game, well, maybe not James Forrest, but having players that have a bit of swagger about them. Okay, if you're going to play for the top team in the country, you know, have that, get rid of this niceness. Let's start being, you know, forceful, you know, and show it, you know.
Aye.
A bit more punk rock, you know. I'm sick of folk tunes in the dressing room. Let's get back to a bit of pogo and jumping up and down and getting out there and just, you know, rubbing it in their faces that we are Celtic. And
well, look at them this season. Look at those games.
I hope he brings it back.
Look at the two games this season where they beat us at Ibrox the 3-0 and then came to Celtic Park and beat us. Again, they had that sort of like, I know they're no, to a man as an actual football player, have Rangers got better technical players? Probably not. But they were willing to make it a dirty game and just like kind of rough us up a wee bit. And again, too many of our players were just too nice to it. We saw it happened with the Engels getting hit with the coin. How many Celtic players were like, you know, Arunum defending them and whatnot? We saw it with Hatate, the injury up at Pittodrie. Again, you know, that was a horrible tackle. It puts Hatate out for the remaining couple of games of the season. Misses a cup final. Could have been a crucial thing when, you know, look at it in hindsight. How many of our players were around that player getting in his face? You know, it's like we don't see that enough. And it's like guys like Tierney, when he was here the first time, we had Scott Brown in the team as well. I know you said a few moments ago there was things to Brown's game you didn't like, but when it comes to him and Callum McGregor as captains, both of them do a good job respectively. But Brown's got that more like nastiness to him where he can do it. Like we talk about being street smart. We always talk about street smart players where they can do things in a cynical way and get away with it and whatnot. Brown has that to his game, and Brown's good at putting pressure on referees and whatnot. And I think we need some players in a bit of a shithouse at times, and they've got a wee bit of swagger about them. And say that picture with Tierney, I just love. He didn't even look at Candias. Didn't even look at him. He's over dramatic, flailing around, trying to get the ref's attention. He doesn't give a shit. He's just like, I don't care, mate. Because he knows he's won the ball. He knows it was a clean tackle. There's nothing to complain about. But I loved it so much, man. But we need that. We need that element, mate. We really do.
Well, you know what? You just see we're getting a leader back, you know. And as you said before, when we played Rangers, we didn't have a leader in the park. You know, and I'm wondering how much it, like for him to come back, you know, there's a big offset in his what he gets paid and stuff like that. And so with him coming back and taking on that leadership role, it'd be really interesting. What do you think they've promised him? Like our board, so if you're going to take that cut and pay, if you're going to, you know, I do stuff sometimes for cheap if I work on a really good creative project, right? And it's something that's like, oh yeah, you know, I really want to do that. Okay, be fun. And so you'll take it for not doing price or something like that. But, you know, you have certain expectations from them. You know, you don't do as you're told, you know, and stuff like that. And you're wondering, okay, well, Tierney's giving up all this money. What is he getting in return? And that is it. Are they promised him that, okay, we're going to build a team around you? Or, you know, that there will be money spent on players so that we become a Champions League team. So, yeah. And I mean, if you look at Tierney branding wise, you know, with the new Adidas stuff and all that, he's a gold mine. He's a gold mine as far as having a homegrown player as part of our team, as part of that legacy, as part of the Lisbon Lions of like, you know, locally community grown talent, moving into the 60th anniversary, by the way. So, you know, there's all these reasons as well for, you know, you think Adidas is paying part of his money?
Is he like He's an Adidas athlete. If I remember on his Twitter page, he's an Adidas. He wears Adidas boots. I'm pretty sure he's also.
They brought out the Adidas Samba, that Adidas Celtic the other day, and Max, like, a lot of the reactions were just terrible, you know.
Oh yeah, I know.
Like, imagine if you announced Kieran Tierney and you brought out Adidas Tierney and there's new number on the back, which should probably be number 3, right? And
I think we'll come back to 6. We had KT63. We're talking about branding. We're talking about how important this is.
Is they branded that? Yeah.
I think he'll stick with the KT63 thing. I think he'll take that number back, and it'll just be like, you know, it's again branding with footballers, putting your number now next to your initials, thanks to what Ronaldo did years ago, CR7. It's like a thing now, isn't it? So I think, but KT63 does it stuck the last time he was here, so I could see him going back to the old squad number as well.
I don't know. What was it? Arsenal was he number 3?
Number 3, but I think in England, when it comes to registering new players, I think unless it's a reserve that's came through, you don't tend to see a lot of players in England having squad numbers that are like 60 something if they've only like
67. Phil, do you give him 67?
Oh, there's a shout by me. There's a bit of branding essentially. That is quite that would fit, yeah.
All right, and then you release an entire 67 line of Adidas, and Kieran Tierney he's your face here.
Well, he's the whole time that we've had this Adidas deal, it's always went through my head. Man, imagine we had KT back, because again, he just fits the type of guy that would love all this Adidas clobber. He does fit into that one with the Sambas and all that. I can imagine KT absolutely loving that.
It would be a great way to announce a player and do a thing. And you know, I worked in campaign in Toronto for Puma, and it was for a nightclub, and they sent every single people that were regulars a nightclub a pair of Puma trainers, you know, and they were like red, and it had the name of the nightclub on the heel, and that was your VIP card to get in to this really cool club and stuff. You know, I mean, the Celtic never do anything like that, of go like above and beyond to try and. Like, I know I'm asking here to thank like season ticket holders and the subscribers and it's like
it's getting these freebies off the club. Are you kidding? Liam, this is a club that try to charge us for buying tickets for a friendly against Newcastle in a few weeks.
It's a bizarre way to run a really, really successful business.
Yeah, that I'll say that it'll never change. It's just getting more and more corporate, sadly, with the club. But were you bringing up there the leadership stuff and whatnot? I say around about this time as well, he actually gets the armband in a couple of games. One of them being against Kilmarnock in a League Cup game, which is a really famous one, a Wednesday night game. It isn't even a full house, but my word, what a performance! Brendan Rodgers fields pretty much a whole second string team. Anthony Ralston gets a game that night and scores. I think it was maybe his first. It was definitely his first goal. It might have been his first game. Calvin Miller plays, but Kieran Tierney plays at centre back, which was the first time I think we'd seen him do that. And he wears the armband that night because Scott Brown gets a rest. But the goal that he scores in this game is all kinds of obscene. He's got no right to shoot from here. He's got no right to score from here. I think he wins like a slide tackle in the middle of the park and just sort of gets back up to his feet and just decides, I'm going for it here. And I'm not even joking when I say it. I think he's close to 40 yards for goal. I don't think that's an exaggeration. He's not too far away from the centre circle. And it's at the end that I sit at Celtic Park, and it's one of the ones, once it leaves his foot, you can kind of see the line of the ball as it's coming towards you, and you're just like, no, surely, and it just flies right in the top corner. It is an obscene goal. But he was wearing the armband that night, and that game was early signs that, you know, there is a leader there, even though he's young, but again, because he's so ingrained in the club, he's born into the club, and you're talking about what is Tierney been promised. I think, providing, you know, we don't have any injury issues, we'll get on to his injury issues in a wee while. If he is still playing with us in, say, 5-6 years' time, you know, he'll be in his sort of like, you know, 32, 33, whatnot, he'll be in that sort of stage. I think he's a club captain. Once Callum McGregor hangs it up, I think he's a club captain every day. I know there's been other podcasters out there pining for things like, oh, Alistair Johnson, you know, he should be the new captain. No. Kieran Tierney, as soon as I heard he was coming back, I was like, there's the next club captain right there. That's the guy. Like, the armband naturally goes to McGregor and it goes to Tierney when McGregor decides to hang it up. Because he is a leader, I say, for even at a young age, he was showing it. I see that goal against Kilmarnock that night, the performance to play centre-back, 18 years old, whatever it was, because Kelly put out like their strongest team that night. We put out a reserve team, a bit like the Aberdeen game the other week at Pataudry, put out the reserves and they're hungry for it. They've got a point to prove. But yeah, that was a phenomenal goal and a phenomenal performance. And again, just an early indication. This boy's a leader.
I think he should be our captain now. Okay, so we know we need change, right? That game against Aberdeen in the final, just like we needed change. Something needs to happen, right? So I don't know. That's one of the things that you could do. Is it disrespectful to Callum McGregor? I don't know. Is it disrespectful to Greg Taylor signing Kieran Tierney?
Well, the manager did say. Remember, the manager did have a wee rant about the Celtic fans when there was rumours going round that we were going to sign him. And that's really disrespectful. Then a couple of weeks later, it was announced that we were signing him. So it's like, so wait a minute, Brendan, you must have known. Don't try and fool us, Brendan. You must have known that we were in for him. It's not going to just pop up overnight. So I don't know. That was a real sour point this season, I think, at the moment.
That point really soured me on Rodgers this year. At that point, I go, what is he talking about? You look at it, Celtic have finally leaked the news that we're in for a marquee player, a player that's coming from a competing Premiership top 3 team, that's coming back at 27. There's no costing us anything, and he's homegrown. He's a fan of the club. Like, everything about that is a positive. How can you go and turn that? And we're singing his name before we've even signed him, and we're probably not signing him for another 6 months. You've still got all that goodwill built up and all that within the stadium, singing the name of a player. The board must have been saying, yeah, we're going in the right direction. Nobody's singing there's only one Peter Lyle soon, right? If he was coming right away. Probably not. But to take all that and then spin it, well, I thought they were being very disrespectful to it. Going down Greg Taylor. I said, what are you talking about? He lost me with that one. He lost me. First, it's not, and remember the fans responded the next.
They did. We sang everybody's name the next game.
We've ever signed and had a song about, which I thought was brilliant as well.
It was good. It was good banter. I like that.
But you know what? But he should have had a go at the fans for that.
Yeah.
It's like, you have an excitement of us signing a player that's marquee value. When's the last time we've signed a player that has the fans so excited they're singing his name 6 months before he's in the door?
I know.
Right?
You
turn that into a negative, Brendan. Mate, Jackie.
Remember that was just after we'd get battered at Ibrox, and there was a lot of questions. I think that was just the anger coming out from the Ibrox performance, but he vented it in completely the wrong way. Yeah, it was just like, man, yeah, it was a bad moment, that one. It was a real sour note, because again, I'm like, look, it's going to look really bad. My first thought was, because at that point in time, I can remember there was too much smoke for there not to be a fire with all the rumours that this was happening. And I was like, okay, he's came out and basically said that it's nonsense. That's the way he's alluding to it. And Greg Taylor's my man, and that's the guy I want to be keeping. But if this happens, you're going to look really foolish, because again, this doesn't happen overnight. You've been involved in these negotiations along the way. So when it gets announced in the next few weeks, and it did, because we were in the middle of the January window at that point, I was like, you're going to look really daft here, because you've came out and defended Greg Taylor. He's a guy I want as my left back. And now you've announced, the club's announced that Kieran Tierney's come back. Kieran Tierney's not coming back to sit as a second choice to Greg Taylor next season. Kieran Tierney's coming back to take that spot. Don't try and fool us that Greg Taylor's your man. And if Greg Taylor was to have signed a contract extension at that point, that he would be starting every game and Kieran Tierney was sitting fiddle. It's like, no, Brendan. I get it when he was trying to protect his player, but again, I think it was just all a culmination of things just came out that night, and he just did it in completely the wrong way. And yeah, a lot of fans you're one of the only one. There was a lot of fans were taken aback. I can remember on this channel, Mark did an emergency broadcast. Like after that, I think he came on with Pam and Mick, and he was obviously raging about it, and was as furious at Brendan for doing that. It's like, the fans pay the money. But I do love what you said there about as well. The next game, we took the piss out of it. We just went, we'll sing every player's name. I heard Arthur Boric getting sang, Jan Vennegoor Hesselink, Aid McGeady, all sorts of names, just everything, just go through the whole songbook. And to be fair, Brendan did get a bit of a chuckle out of it, I suppose. So we kind of ironed that one out. But back on to KT in terms of where things are at this point. So second season, Brendan, it's another double treble winner. The winners' medals are just stacking up now for young Kieran Tierney. But going into the third season, this is where injuries would start to take a bit of a hold of him, and this would be a running theme the rest of his career. Well, the rest of his career, I would say like he's finished his career, he's still playing in his career, he's still going. But for the rest of his up till now, injuries have kind of been a word associated with him. But yeah, obviously the next season ends up being Brendan's last season. He only sees out 3/4 of it before leaving, and Neil Lennon comes in. But there was another iconic Kieran Tierney moment during the Europa League campaign, where we had RB Leipzig at home and we beat them 2-1. Kieran Tierney scores a goal that night, a bit similar to I said earlier about the Man City goal, where he got up that left-hand side and it's just a shot low down towards the near post and it sneaks in. And it's a great shot again, just the iconic celebration where he runs over to the Green Brigade and just like doing Scott Brown celebration with the arms out, but it's just like the shot of him from behind and just this big vast crowd in front of him. And again, well, he was obviously strongly associated with the Green Brigade, with the celebrations, grabbing the megaphone. Again, we talk about iconic imagery. And all that. So him and the Green Brigade just always went together. It always seemed to be like a thing he's always associated with. By that shot, obviously with the RB Leipzig celebration, but I say the injuries start to catch up to him a wee bit this season. Then say Brendan leaves in March, Neil Lennon takes over. But again, there's a fantastic moment. I don't remember this where we beat Hearts at Tynecastle in Lenny's first game as a caretaker. It was Edwards scored in like stoppage time, beat them 2-1. And the full-time celebrations, Kieran Tierney, keep in mind, he's grown up and he said that Bobo Baldé was his idol. So his generation as a child was that Martin O'Neill team, Bobo Baldé, Neil Lennon and whatnot. And here's Neil Lennon now as his manager. Well, did he know he was about to be the full-time manager? But to be fair, though, Kieran leaves at the end of this season, so you only got him as a caretaker. But there's the celebrations at full-time. And Neil Lennon was always good for this. It's one of the things that I loved in his celebrations. See when he's like really into it, the way he would grab players like by their shirt, just be like, I love you. He done that to Tierney, like Tierney and him are celebrating at Tynecastle, and again, like Lenny just goes up and grabs him and just like, yes, love you, wee man. Just a great imagery again, Liam, and again, just about Kieran Tierney. That's what he's all about. Celtic. Here's one of his idols, Neil Lennon, basically grabbing him, like, yes, wee man, love it.
So I'm wondering who's going to benefit the most for Tierney playing, Maeda or Jota. I think, like I looked at that, he didn't really link up with Paddy Roberts as far as a player went on the park. They were more like pals off the park, right?
Yeah.
But it'd be interesting to see, because I think our wingers are really underfed, and same we don't have anybody that's becoming a playmaker for the middle of the park. And is that something where you could give Tierney more of an attacking role? Not an inversive fullback, right? But more of a player that plays from left back rather than playing left back. I think he's got all that. Some of the goals, and you mentioned one of them earlier, is where he takes up ball on his right foot and he moves in and he just lets one fly. That thunder bastard that he scored like that as well. I think that's something we've been really missing. We've not had that in the last season, and I don't know if Rodgers trains that out of the game, but we don't seem to be taking shots. Like, I don't want to see it go back to the Ryan Christie days, but it's.
Look at the start of this season, Liam. Look at the start. Cal McGregor got like 5 or 6 goals in the first 12 games of the season from just shooting from outside the area.
That's right. Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see with him coming back as well. Is it going to force Rodgers to change his style of football? And that's the thing. You get such a marquee player coming back. Okay, is the valuation here that we need to start playing our football and change the structure so that it benefits that he becomes our best player?
Yeah, well, it will be interesting because the way we play at the moment, I mean, I've always associated Celtic with attacking wide play, whether it's wingers or fullbacks, getting forward. I say Brendan's first term in charge, that first season in particular, Tierney was very much getting forward, supporting the attack. He loved a goal against Aberdeen. I mean, there's one at Pittodrie that he basically starts the attack and, goes all the way up the park and the ball finds its way back to him. He scores at the near post and then runs all the way back to the Celtic fans down at the corner at Pittodrie. And just the celebration is brilliant. And in the same season, we beat them 3-0 as well up at Pittodrie. And there's a goal where he just came up at the back post. He just ran all the length of the park. The balls came across to him at the back post and he's just connected it perfectly. I think it hits the crossbar on the way in. It kind of like bounces off the bar and in. So he was always good at getting forward. So the way we've been playing recently of this season, Kuhn doesn't hit the byline for a winger. He's very much cut inside onto his left foot and shoot. Dies Maeda, if he's playing out wide, it's very much our wingers don't like to hit the byline. Our fullbacks, Alistair Johnson does it. Tony Ralston does it when he plays. But of course, odd one out who doesn't do it on the left-hand side is, of course, Mr. Gregory Taylor. He obviously likes to cut inside. He gets about the halfway line and then comes inside and passes it in. I think with Tierney, I think you're looking for him to complement whatever winger will be playing out there. Now, Jota's obviously out until January, at least. So I think we're going to need a new winger in as well. I think we're going to need that. Who that's going to be, I don't know. But again, I think you need to utilise Tierney. I mean, it's not like, he's had some injury problems, Liam, but he ain't finished in getting forward. I mean, it was just like a couple of years ago in the run-up to the Euros when playing for Scotland. He had that brilliant game against Spain where they beat them at Hampden. And the second goal that McTominay scores that night is all down to Kieran Tierney, who basically picks up the ball in his own 18-yard box. And him and Andy Robertson do that thing where they kind of swap in tandem going forward. And he just goes right up the left-hand side all the way, gets the cross in, Spain defend it, but not very well, and it comes right back to McTominay and scores. It's all through Tierney, so it's not like a case of, his legs are gone or anything like that. I mean, he's 28. It was his birthday literally yesterday. He literally turned 28 literally yesterday. So happy birthday, Kieran Tierney. So his legs are gone. So I think we need to be utilising that because you're right in talking about the horseshoe. We have become a bit stale. We do look bereft of ideas, and I'd like to think an exciting player like that, an explosive player, this could be something that we can utilise next season, and it's not a case of, right, we're going to try and protect you a wee bit because of your ropey injury record. I think you utilise them to their strengths. I really do.
Yeah, I mean, that might be a reverse of Rodgers' tactics, of finally inverting the horseshoe so that it becomes an attacking threat. Having your two fullbacks be the ones that launch the attack rather than the two guys in the middle. We've tried it for ages with the two guys in the middle taking the ball and launching it through. Mm-hmm. All right, what if we start switching it as well, where it's like your fullbacks? I think that's what Ange was trying to do with inverted fullbacks, is it would change the shape of the triangle, just moving the points around, that your two fullbacks could slot in and come in. We don't see that anymore now. I noticed it most with Cameron Carter-Vickers' game, where he's not coming into that pivot as well. Greg Taylor does it, but it's like when he does it, it's so noticeable. That look at me, I'm running. There's never any thought to it or any outcome to it. Just like, where goes Greg Taylor? Wonder how long it will take him to get back to left back this time. A postcard, pal.
Yep. So he ventures forward and gets a nosebleed.
It's going to create a change in the tactics. We've got to look at start changing the shape and the strategy of the way we play. Now he's got a player, and this is where we're going to have to see whether Rodgers has the right management team around him, or if he's the right guy as well to sort of like, okay, you're getting given another Rolls Royce. What are you going to do with it? Yeah. Don't let it be a Rolls Royce for 3 games, and then all of a sudden, like Dyson Maeda, you've got a world on form centre forward right now. What are you going to do with it? I'll put him on the wing. Okay. All right, we'll give Ida a run. No, you can't do that with Kieran Tierney. So
yeah, to say Tierney,
Brendan,
yeah, and he's got a great delivery, which we don't utilise enough. When you've got a guy like Ademida, right, and who is a big guy, we don't cross the ball in enough. But Kieran Tierney has shown he's got a good cross on him. So maybe if he is playing now and he gets forward on that left-hand side and hits the byline, like I say, I like my wide players to do, instead of always just cutting inside and passing it in or shooting, it's like hopefully he can utilise that, getting down that side, get a cross in, and maybe for a guy like Ademida, when he gets games next season, it might benefit him, a big guy. we'll wait and see though with that one. But in terms of Kieran Tierney, say at this point in his career, obviously the Brendan Rodgers time is over. He's left. Neil Lennon's took over. Neil Lennon sees the treble over the line. Although I say that tail end of that season, he was in and out because of injuries. Johnny Hayes played the cup final at left back. If you remember, he actually missed the cup final against Hearts that season. So again, I say injuries were becoming a problem for him. And yeah, but that summer there was a lot of rumours began doing the rounds that he was attracting interest from England, and Arsenal came a calling and £25 million straight up. I think there was a bit of stalling on it that Celtic wanted it all right away rather than in instalments. But yeah, Celtic made themselves a pretty penny on that one, but off he went to Arsenal. Now, the interesting thing in the wake of that is not long after he did an interview on Simon Ferry's Open Goal channel. Now, up until that point, I didn't mind a wee bit of Si Ferry's channel. I quite enjoyed the format, just him and an ex-player shooting the breeze, talking about their career, obviously somebody maybe he played with or knew. I always liked that format, but this was the first time that I watched it where I went, oh, this is unbearable. And it's when they changed the format up to Si Ferry, Slaney, Kevin Kyle, and I can't remember if it was Andy Halliday. Andy Halliday only joined in recent years. It was somebody else. There was four of them. And Kieran Tierney was on. And I was like, oh man, I'm dying to hear what Kieran Tierney's got to say. And in amongst when Slaney was the fanboying out for him and shouting over people and, you know, he couldn't get a word in, Kieran Tierney did reveal that Celtic were basically forcing him to take painkilling injections to get through games and running them into the ground, essentially, which was a bit of an eye-opener in that sort of last season there, because there were games where we needed them. And, yeah, he was just having to take painkilling injections and whatnot. So it was like, oh, that's not good to hear. Hopefully that does have a long-lasting effect on his career. And obviously since then he's been sort of hampered by injuries at times. But I remember that coming out as a bit of a, not to say a revelation. I mean, players have taken painkilling injections before. But yeah, you just think with Tierney, you know, just with the way the injuries are starting to mount up, you did begin to worry that, oh dear, I hope this isn't going to be a long-lasting effect, Liam.
Well, I don't know. It makes you wonder what he was promised coming back, knowing that we have the same manager, the same teams, pretty well, back staff, all that. Is he going to be running to the ground again? It's not like all of a sudden Rodgers has got this imaginative streak and always doing all these brilliant things for change and all that. No, just like Steve Clarke, he's very, very set in his ways. There's very little surprises in his teams and that. And will he run Tierney into the ground, knowing that he probably doesn't have an adequate cover? You know, and
yeah,
I don't know. I think again, those must be things that are all will come out after this next time he's on off the goal. Tell you what, I went after them about the same time as well. I put the headphones in one night for a walk to listen to it, and it came on. That fucking idiot screaming into the microphone. Yeah, oh, here we go. Nearly destroyed my eardrums.
Yeah, I see. I didn't mind the format.
Unfollow, unsubscribe, boom. Idiot.
Yeah, I'm saying. I thought the format was fine. I remember some of the early interviews that he did with like Charlie Mulgrew and all that. No, it was good. Just him and one person, great. Yeah, I remember with Joe Ledley. I remember with Michael Stewart. He was talking about his Man United time, and Si Ferry was just like a wee boy, just loving it. Just talking about what's David Beckham like. What was Ryan Giggs like? You know, asking about all the big superstars. But I enjoyed just the one-on-one stuff. But when he changed it up to Si Ferry and friends, it was a Kieran Tierney, because I was like, I want to hear what Kieran Tierney's got to say, because I love Kieran Tierney. I want to hear all about his time at Celtic. And it just turned into just a rabble. I say Slaney was just fanboying out all constantly, just like just butting in all the time, having to talk to him. And I'm just like, man, I want to hear what Kieran Tierney's got to say. Come on. So yeah, but anyway, that was the revelation that came out of that, where he talked about Celtic were basically giving him painkilling injections to get through because they needed them to play. But he goes off to Arsenal. And obviously his first season there, he's in the team, he's playing pretty well, but sadly that is the season where COVID strikes. Remember that? Yeah, COVID's happened in March of 2020, so the 2019-20 season, the whole world goes to shit. The whole world gets shut down, and some leagues obviously opted to end their season. They had a vote. Keep that in mind. If a Rangers fan ever tells you that we get awarded the title over Zoom, just remind them that their club voted in favour of ending the season early, so just remind them of that one. So yes, Celtic were crowned champions. Down in England, where of course Kieran Tierney was now playing for Arsenal, they actually won a trophy. they actually won a trophy. And regardless of the fact, yes, okay, it wasn't for no fans, they did resume the end of their season to see out Liverpool end up winning the title. So Andy Robertson actually won the title that season, and Kieran Tierney won the FA Cup. But yeah, Arsenal came back and beat, I think, Manchester City in the semi-final. Kieran Tierney was very pivotal in that game. I remember him setting up Aubameyang for one of the goals in that game. And he was a fan favourite at Arsenal right away. They were loving him. And then they beat Chelsea in the final. I want to say it was Chelsea in the final. Man City semi-final, Chelsea in the final. I'm pretty sure it was either that or the other way around. But they win a trophy. And this was under Mikel Arteta. It was Unai Emery that signed him. But things went pear-shaped very quickly for Unai Emery, and he was sacked midway through that season. And then comes Mikel Arteta. And right away, he wins a trophy. He wins the FA Cup. So Arsenal were maybe thinking, maybe we are on to a winner with this guy, because the story was Arteta was meant to get the Arsenal job before Emery. And then Arsenal went, we'll take Emery because of that experience. But then Arteta comes in and wins a trophy. But then something weird happens. And to be fair, the word weird could be associated with Mikel Arteta a lot with some of the stuff that he's done over the last few years. I mean, I've always quite liked Arsenal. Dennis Bergkamp was one of my favourite players as a kid, right? So I've always had like a wee thing. I always want to see Arsenal do well. I loved Arsene Wenger. I loved the Invincibles, the way they played Henri Perez and all that. Brilliant team to watch. But Jesus Christ, Mikel Arteta makes it very, very hard to like Arsenal at the moment. He is an oddball. And for some reason, after winning a trophy, he suddenly just decides that he just doesn't like anybody in that Arsenal team. And he begins just eradicating them, getting rid of them. Aubameyang, don't care that you scored 30-something goals, gone. Just starts, throwing them away. And Kieran Tierney pretty much just gets, frozen out. They just decide that, he's not really got a future. And as time goes on, he just gets less and less game time at Arsenal. And yeah, he's kind of frozen out. And over the next couple of seasons, we've chanced it, but every time he plays, you don't hear Arsenal fans complain. You don't go on Twitter and see them saying, "Oh, he's rubbish" and all that. They always maintained, he's a good player. They always liked him. They were gutted to see him go. He does have a loan spell at Real Sociedad as well. And yeah, he goes out there. And again, it's a familiar story. Injury hampers him. He has an all right enough start. He's getting games. He's playing regular. And it's an injury again that gets him. He goes to the Euros in 2024 with Scotland. Obviously, Scotland get decimated. They weren't very good. But obviously, he takes a bad injury against Switzerland, putting himself on the line to stop a counter-attack. Ends up injured. He's out for a few months starting last season as well. Obviously, the boy, Miles Kelly, breaks through at Arsenal at left-back as well. So he's way down the pecking order. So at this point, that's when the rumours begin to come that Kieran Tierney might come back. His contract's coming up. He ain't getting many games at Arsenal. Yes, there is some talk that, Everton, Newcastle, a few teams of that ilk. Aston Villa, I think, were another one of the teams with the Unai Emery connection, because Unai Emery's clearly a fan. There's talk that, but Celtic are in for him. So this is when it starts to game in. Now, keep in mind, this is a guy that has been frozen out by Mikel Arteta. He barely gets a sniff, only plays the occasional League Cup game and maybe a fleeting substitute appearance. And then when this story comes out that we are in for him and it looks like it's very real, suddenly Mikel Arteta has a weird epiphany that he wants to start using Kieran Tierney. And Liam, were you like me, where one, you thought something a bit cynical about this, and two, were you shiting it that he was going to get injured between now and the end of the season?
It would be that sort of dark poetry that sometimes surrounds us with the romanticism as well. That if it was going to happen to something, it would happen to Tierney. No, you know what? I'm glad he had a chance to show them up and show them what a player he was. I've got Arsenal friends here in this city in Vancouver here, and and at first it was like, "Oh, Tierney, one of you lot, yeah, I love him on his back," and it's like, but he's a player as well. He's a good player. He's going to lead you, and you could see they were falling in love with him. And you're right, that wee weirdo Eddie Munster comes in. And all of a sudden, was it the Ukrainian boy who was playing for a while?
That's right. It was.
Seen him. He was weak defending, and they all complained. But it's funny, like none of them really. When I spoke to Arsenal fans about him, and it's like, but Zinchenko, this and that, and I was like, I could just prove to me that mob know nothing about football, like everybody else except people who support Celtic.
Yeah, but it was just
like, you don't know what you're talking about then, because I really thought, I always felt like I had a soft spot for Arsenal as well, but I've went after them. I've went after them because you know what, you had something there and you sort of squandered it. Did you see some of the pishy memes on X or whatever it is right now about look after our boy or whatever? Like that's something. That's right.
Aye. Somebody said that's like the babysitter handing the baby back to the parents. I know what you mean. I say I've always liked Arsenal from the youngster, and yeah, Arteta makes it hard. I mean, that thing with the light bulb and all that from that documentary, it's just like what an odd guy. I mean, forget the fact that he played for Rangers, right?
Oh.
You know, and the whole EBT stuff and all that, and I'm scoring the penalty in 2003. That aside, right? So strange. I say the guy wins one trophy, right? And then just decides that he just hates everybody in that team and just begins getting rid of them. And it's like, I know he's built, I mean, some of the players he's brought in are obviously better, but they're still not winning anything. You know, at the end of the day, it's all about trophies. And yeah, he's finished second 3 years in a row and don't win anything. Meanwhile, Big Ann just won a trophy across North London and he's been sacked tonight. So what do you know?
I think it's imposter syndrome as well. You know, you get some of these managers, they're all ego and it's just all bluff. And then good players start figuring them out and start realizing that, wait a minute, you might not know what you're doing here. And just, get rid of him, you know. Yeah, I think it has to be that sort of ruthless in the managerial thing. And I think he just looks to have a really tight ship, and anybody that dissents or anything or shows him any sort of resistance, he just gets out the door really quick. You know, that's why you see such big changes or seeing players being frozen out. You know, I worry about that with our manager as well, that like the whole new Rocky thing, that's very similar. You know, if I'm a League of Warsaw fan and I'm looking, well, we lost a really promising player, you know, on the verge of being a Polish international, all that stuff, to go to Celtic, 4.5 million, and then not even get a look in for this Rodgers guy. It's like, and despite him playing well coming on, it makes you wonder, you know, like why was Tierney not getting a game? He's supposed to be brilliant in training, you know. So
weird. But at this point in time, like he's like the 4th or 5th choice left back there. But then, as I say, the minute that we're strongly linked with him, and it looks like he's going to sign an agreement to join us this coming summer, suddenly Mikel Arteta has this epiphany that he's going to start using him. So yeah, not only that, he begins playing him at like left wing, as like a left wing forward and stuff like that. And again, it's like, oh man, we better not get injured seriously. But incredibly, Tierney does actually make it through. He does actually come through unscathed, and even ended his Arsenal career with a goal on the last day against Southampton. So he had a happy ending to it in the end. He got a goal and he had a good send-off with the Arsenal fans. I say, who've never really changed their opinion. I think a lot of them have always been really high on him. And they're sad to see him go, because I think you're right. They do realise that they had, you know, a top talent there, and the manager's stubbornness just deciding that, nah, this boy's knowing my plans. But I just found it funny how the minute that he was coming to us, it was like, oh, no, I'm going to suddenly start playing him. He's still going to get a load of games. And yeah, I was on tenterhooks every time I saw him coming on. I'm like, oh no, he's going to get injured. But he's made it, and he's on the way up the road now, Liam, so we can look forward to KT being announced. I believe on the 1st of July it'll probably be, because his contract will be up on the 30th of June, probably sort of the common date for most of the football contracts expire on the 30th of June. So we can expect the creative KT announcement from our social media team. I wonder how that will go down.
It does make you wonder how you could announce that. I mean, I'd have him just walking out with the captain's armband and holding Greg Taylor's hand as a mascot.
Yeah, could announce 2 left backs together, a contract extension for one and your left back.
Maybe carrying out Greg Taylor, and Greg Taylor's holding the baby as well, but KT's carrying the both of them. That would be good.
Yeah. So the two questions sort of in his time away. One, was he a success down south? Will the player himself be looking at it and think it could have went better, or will you look at the fact that he got a winner's medal? And 2, are we getting back a better player now, Liam, than what left 5 years ago now, 6 years ago? Jesus, that long ago.
Okay, answer to the first question. I think, you know, he's going to be remembered amongst the Arsenal fans, I think, for for some of his pop culture moments as well. Just like this happening beat on became a part of Celtic culture, you know, part of the culture. It's happening beat on. Yeah. I'm sure that's how you announce them back. I think they do a worldwide campaign where everybody just does an entire TikTok thing. It's like, that's happening, Tierney. You know, welcome.
Does he walk in with a Tesco bag? He's got to walk in with a Tesco bag, isn't he?
Or put it on the screen, you know, in the front. So it's just like you see fans from all over the world saying, what's happening, Tierney? You know, it's something like that, something creative that sort of already shows that you know that there's already a history and a culture between us and the player. The fact that he also leaves Arsenal with a bit of that whole thing about walking into the bin, the training room with the boots in the bin bag in like a Tesco's bag or whatever it was at that point, that's like something that one of the Italian movies used to make in the 60s, you know, socialism and all that. It's like, it's so visually poetic, and the richest league in the world with all these millionaires and all their wee man bags and accessory and stuff like that. If you've never read the Victor or Alf Tupper, King of the Track, or any of that sort of stuff, you're mixing what Scottish folklore is about. And that is one of the sort of iconic moments as well, too, that just people from working class backgrounds and all that we get and we understand, but you love the symbolism of it. You love everything about that because that's what makes you Celtic. And I had so many Arsenal pals talk about that moment than other things as well, because it struck a nerve with what started as a working class club. And I think anytime you can do that authentically and sincerely, yeah, you'll always be cult, you know. And he went down there and he achieved a bit of cult status. Does he come back a better player? Absolutely. I think he's a player that was built to play for Celtic. I think he's part of, if there's a Celtic story out there that we're all writing together in real time, I think he's the next chapter of that story. I think the next chapter of Celtic, I think, is going to belong to Kieran Tierney. And I think, if you want something that's it's heroic and a good story, yeah. The boy comes home for less money to take his boyhood club that he loves in the doors to bigger heights and maybe the champions of Europe. If I'm sitting down there and I'm pitching a football movie, yeah, that's the timeline. That's the guy, and he plays himself.
Yeah, well, the thing is, he's also played in 2 international tournaments as well in the time that he's been away for us. I know, yes, obviously McGregor did as well, but, you know, he's got that to his name. He's went down to England. He's had a decent enough, as a cult following, definitely. He's definitely fitted into that. He's won himself a trophy. He's coming back up the road, still at a good age in his career. He's not coming up as a 35-year-old for a last paycheck. So I think we're getting him a good time.
Hey, Phil, can I ask a question? Maybe you know what people on the Friday Feeling note here is he's not just played for Scotland, he's played for one other international team.
I know who it is, yeah.
Too easy.
Well, yeah, it's got a very, very funny, distinctive flag, the Isle of Man. Yeah, the Isle of Man. He's got he's that's part of his, because yeah, you see he's Wishaw, it's Wishaw he's from, isn't it? How he was born in Douglas, right? Okay.
I read a thing where he was talking about he played in some tournament of like Celtic Nations or something like that, right. And he represented him and somebody else that was playing in the SPL represented Isle of Man, and he was very proud about it, and he said it was a great honour and all that. Nice. And I thought, that's wild. Okay, that's interesting as well, you know.
Aye. Isle of Man. Aye, so he's got that to his name, and a wee side fact of his international career. So Scotland and Isle of Man international. Right. I was about Isle of Man. I didn't know he actually played for some sort of Isle of Man team. I didn't know about that, but I knew he'd been born in the Isle of Man. But that's actually a game. Tyrrell got it in the chat there as well. But yeah, it's just...
Catalonians did a team as well. Remember, they do a Catalonian team every now and again, right? I think it was that sort of thing.
Well, here's another question as well, just to lead on. See, this time next year, Liam, do you think we'll be talking about Andy Robertson joining Celtic on a free transfer, because his contract is up next summer now? And typical, again, we talk about Scotland, and what only things that can happen to Scotland with hard luck stories in a way. You know, we'll look at tonight some of the goals they lost against Iceland, right? But Scotland, right, we don't tend to produce world-class players, right? And only Scotland would produce 2 players of that ilk that play in the same position, and it's left back. Andy Robertson. Now, this is one that I think David Logue put this out there a while ago. That Andy Robertson's contract's up next summer. Now, the way Liverpool dragged their heels about offering Van Dijk and Mo Salah a new contract, keep in mind they're like the superstar players still of the team. Robertson has still done a great job at Liverpool. He's still there, but you can tell that he's on the down. I don't think they will throw a new contract at him. So this time next year, are we going to end up like the Scotland national team and end up with Andy Robertson and Kieran Tierney as left back options? Is that going to happen to us this time next year?
Okay, I wouldn't say no to Andy Robertson just because I'm such a big fan. I don't even know what we're getting right now because I don't watch English football and going to get a feed for the Scotland game. So I don't know. I mean, he always it's always when they show that picture of Jennifer Aniston and Iggy Pop. Mm-hmm. And I think Jennifer Aniston's, Andy Robertson playing for Liverpool and Iggy Pop's Andy Robertson playing for Scotland, It does look that way at times, I don't know what Andy Robertson playing for Celtic would look like.
As Maestro says, Andy Robertson started as a youth player at Celtic.
I know he's right.
And what a story he said, but could it be this time next year?
I think he was one of the players that Jackie McNamara identified and brought him on when he was at Dundee,
Mm-hmm.
And that just leads me something as well, fellas. I'm still surprised that Jackie McNamara, with the pedigree he has and stuff like that, is not on the Celtic coaching staff. Or if you're looking for a chief, head of football, Jackie McNamara wouldn't be a.
Is he an agent? I said he's a football agent.
A football agent. He's been a manager, a coach, a national player. He ticks all the boxes as far as if you were having a director of football and a Scottish identity. He's football through and through. His old man, him. I mean, his football lineage, much just as much or more than the Strachan family.
No, that's a name that's honest right now.
Can be more than one Ewings in Dallas,
That's true. Also, Graham Tyrrell, have you cracked it? Robertson at left back, Kieran Tierney at left centre back. Who knows?
That's what I was hoping might happen. I wouldn't see that, Graham.
Well, the thing is, I say that's another story for our time. We'll just need to deal with it now. And yes, Kieran Tierney is obviously the confirmed one. But say in a year's time, maybe we'll be talking about that. We'll wait and see. We'll leave that to further down the line. But that brings us up to current day. Kieran Tierney's on the way now. So, we look forward to it. We look forward to seeing him back in the hoops in a few weeks' time when he'll get announced to say, I like your pitch for this happening, Tierney. I think that would be fantastic if they went down that route. But that wraps up our show tonight. We're on a wee Bustalgia episode. I know that you've been clamouring for these, and right now with no real news to talk about and no games to look forward to because everyone's on the Hollybobs or international games. This is another wee Bustalgia. Maybe there'll be another one as well next week. Just say we're sort of, as I said at the top of the show, keep in mind that we are moving to a new channel for the start of the new season. So again, if you need a reminder of what that is, that of course is this channel, Boys on the Bus. So make sure you have hit the subscribe button on that channel. Go and find it at youtube.com/@Boys on the Bus. That's where you will find it. If you've not hit that subscribe button yet, go and do so. Content will be getting uploaded there. It'll be myself, Terry, Liam, Connor, Mark, David, Regan, Pam, Mick, and some, as Russell said the other night, from time to time when he does a show here on the Bhoycie Bus, which will still be here. It may be myself that will jump on with him to help him out to do a show or whatever. But in terms of regular 3 times, 4 times a week type of content, the Boys on the Bus is where you want to go. So hit that. As it says, more bus content. You'll have the Bhoycie Bus and the Boys on the Bus. You'll get all this bus content. You can't go wrong with that. So make sure you hit the subscribe button on that channel as well. And hey, if you haven't done it on this channel and you've only discovered this one tonight, do it on this one too. Hit the like button as well on the way out. Liam, have you enjoyed tonight?
I'm looking forward to Kieran Tierney coming back. One of my favourite players. And I'm delighted for all the wee kids that now get their new Bobo. So it's a new part of Celtic. I say it's exciting. He is a marquee player, and we're looking forward to seeing him. It's
a familiar, familiar name, familiar face, but there's something just new and exciting and fresh about it. I feel like, did we sell him a bit too soon? I understand the way business works in football, and you've got to capitalise if the offer was there. Celtic took it, but hey, we've ended up selling for 25 million and getting back for nothing. I mean, Peter Lawwell, he is loving that fact. So yeah, he is laughing all the way to the bank. What a move that is! So he is absolutely loving it. And also to just, as our Spill the Glove says, when's it starting, Phil Oggs? Probably late July. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to need to do a soft launch show to test everything works, to make sure all the streaming works and you guys can comment. So I think within the next week or so, I might do like a sort of a test run, essentially, like as I say, a soft launch on the new channel. I'll jump on with somebody and just to basically let you know what's happening. We'll just have a general chit chat about Celtic, I guess. Just to, again, make sure everything works, to make sure comments are coming through, to make sure it all goes together. So that's probably a good idea to do that, because the last thing I need is we get to July, first episode of the Friday Feeling or something like that. Oh no, it's not working. Oh, if only I tested it. So I should probably do that. So yeah, but from the sort of start of the season, late July going into August, we will look to, that's where your regular stuff will be. I say Friday Feeling will be going over there. A few of the shows will be immigrating over. Bustalgia will be going to the new show, the new channel as well. I've got a few ideas for that, and I've got similar shows to what's going on in this, but I'm renaming a few of them. There's a good one with Mark involved, and I've got a very funny one for Connor, put it that way. I've got a very fitting name for Connor's new show, all be revealed in due course. But yes, hit the subscribe button on that channel, hit the subscribe button on this one, hit the like button on this channel as well. Do all that good stuff. You know the drill by now, folks. And yeah, we'll see you on the next one. Thanks, Liam, again for being on tonight. Thanks, everyone, for watching us as well while we were competing against that riveting Scotland game. Dreadful. And yeah, as I say, we'll see you on the next one. Enjoy the rest of your night and enjoy your weekend. And yeah, hopefully next time we're on, there'll be some exciting Celtic news. But we'll catch you later, guys. Cheers.